My name is Clara Moretti. I'm 34, and until last Christmas I thought I understood betrayal. Then I woke up on Christmas morning to find my business account had been stripped of $218,000 overnight. The thief was my own younger brother Luca, a brilliant coder with a spiraling gambling problem and a long-standing resentment of my success. When I confronted him, he gave me that smug half-smile and said, "Prove it, Miss Tech Queen." He had no idea what would happen next when that door opened. I grew up in a modest row house in Providence, Rhode Island, the oldest of two in the Moretti family. For as long as I can remember, I was the responsible one. By 10, I was making my own lunches, helping with chores, and earning straight A's. Not because I was naturally gifted, but because I worked twice as hard as everyone else. Our parents, both community college professors, said they valued hard work. Or so they claimed. Somehow, that standard never seemed to apply to my brother. Luca was born when I was 4. From the moment his tiny hands touched a keyboard, it was clear he had a gift. At 7, he was coding little games. At 12, he was building websites that impressed adults far beyond our family. The refrain of my teenage years became, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" Our parents never hid their favoritism. When Luca hacked the school's grading system in 8th grade to change his friend's mark, they called it exploring his talents. When I stayed up until 3 a.m. 3 years in a row to win science fair scholarships, they called it meeting expectations. College only widened the gap. I worked 3 part-time jobs to put myself through Brown University, budgeting every penny while maintaining a 3.9 GPA. Luca got a full ride to MIT for his coding talent, and spent more time at underground poker games than in class. He almost flunked sophomore year until one tearful phone call got our parents to hire expensive tutors. I graduated with honors into the teeth of the post-recession job market, where tech jobs for women without connections were like winning lottery tickets. After 6 months of rejections, I took my last $1,000 and started my own cybersecurity consultancy from my cramped studio apartment. For 2 years, I lived on a futon beside my desk, working 18-hour days, building my client base one small business at a time. Luca dropped out of MIT 8 credits short when a gaming company offered him a 6-figure salary for an app he'd built. Within 6 months, they fired him for missing deadlines and showing up hungover. And so began the pattern of his 20s, brilliant opportunities squandered through self-sabotage. By the time I hit 30, my persistence paid off. Ironlock Systems, my cybersecurity firm, had grown to 50 employees with offices in Providence and Chicago. We specialized in protecting small to mid-sized companies from exactly the kind of breaches my brother could execute in his sleep. By then, Luca and I barely spoke outside of obligatory birthday calls and tense holiday gatherings. The last time I'd seen him before that Christmas was at our father's 60th birthday. He'd shown up 3 hours late, eyes glassy, clearly high on something, and asked if I could spot him a few grand for a surefire investment. Despite everything, I still tried to help him. I'd offered him a job at Ironlock 4 separate times. He always refused, saying he'd never work for his control freak sister. Instead, I'd get desperate midnight calls when his gambling debts got dangerous. Against my better judgment, I'd bailed him out twice in the past year alone, on the condition he attended Gamblers Anonymous. He swore he was going. I wanted to believe him. The Moretti family's Christmas tradition was sacred. No matter the tension, Mom would make her famous eggnog. Dad would read The Night Before Christmas, and Luca and I would avoid any meaningful conversation. That year, I arrived straight from the airport, having just closed the biggest contract of my career with a major healthcare provider. The deal put Ironlock in a new league of cybersecurity firms. In my carry-on was my work laptop, with sensitive client data and access to all company accounts, including the operational account where the fresh $218,000 deposit from the new client sat. Bringing that laptop was my first mistake. Warning signs came quickly. Luca showed an unusual interest in my work, asking oddly specific questions about security protocols. He lingered near my laptop when I set it down to help Mom with dinner. I caught him moving away from my computer bag when I returned from a business call, but in the spirit of Christmas, I brushed it off. We were adults now, right? Surely he'd grown past his old habits. Over dinner, after Mom proudly announced my big deal, Luca grinned. "Must have some serious security on all that client data," he said. "The best in the business." I replied, matching his gaze. No system is unbreakable, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I should have recognized it for what it was, not sibling rivalry, but a warning. Christmas morning started like always. The smell of cinnamon and coffee drifting through the house. Dad placing presents under the tree. Mom humming in the kitchen. Luca was surprisingly awake early, sipping coffee and scrolling through his phone with intense focus. Before breakfast, I slipped into the guest room to do a quick check of emails and account balances. A habit from my lean startup years. Logging into the company account, I froze. The balance was $0. I refreshed the page. Same result. My other accounts were fine, but the operational account, the lifeblood of Ironlock, was empty. The transaction history showed a single transfer at 3:18 a.m. to an unfamiliar account. My pulse thundered in my ears. While I'd been sleeping under my parents' roof, someone had drained the entire deposit from my biggest client. My IT team confirmed my worst fear. The transfer had been authorized using my own credentials and authentication codes. They could freeze the account now, but the funds were gone. I sat there numb until a memory cut through the fog. Midnight hot chocolate in the kitchen with my parents, a Moretti Christmas Eve tradition. Luca had skipped it, claiming a headache. My laptop had been left in the guest room for at least half an hour. Unlocked. Realization hit like a punch to the chest. I stormed downstairs to find Luca handing out extravagant gifts. A designer watch for Dad, diamond studs for Mom. No way could an unemployed gambler afford them. What did you do? I asked, my voice low and cold. Merry Christmas to you too, sis, he said. My company account is empty. $218,000 gone. Transferred at 3:18 this morning. His hand tightened around the watch box. Mom's eyes went wide. That's awful, Luca said, feigning concern. Have you called the bank? Drop the act. We both know it was you. The smirk that spread across his face made my skin crawl. That's a big accusation, Clara. Prove it. Mom's eyes darted between us. Dad already looked tired. Mom was already tearing up. You've done awful things before, Luca. But this is criminal. This is my company. My employees' salaries depend on me. Prove it, he repeated, his voice like ice. He knew he'd covered his tracks. Mom and Dad stepped in. Mom pleaded for me to stop ruining Christmas. Luca claimed he'd gotten a cash-paying coding gig to buy the gifts. You're lying, I said. Show me your bank statements. He shot back. You've always been jealous. Things come easy to me, and you've had to grind for every scrap. That familiar injustice, decades old, burned in my chest. Still, I realized nothing I said would change my parents' minds. They never took my side without indisputable proof. Fine. I get it. I locked the guest room door and pulled out my emergency backup tablet. Attempt starting at 2:43 a.m. A successful entry at 3:12. And a snapshot from my hidden security camera feature. Luca, face lit by the glow of my laptop screen. The deeper I dug, the more his fingerprints were everywhere. A keystroke logger had been installed via USB, capturing my credentials before erasing itself. Except my protocols recorded every trace. The IP controlling it matched Luca's gaming rig. The code itself had his unmistakable style, down to quirks only someone who grew up with him would recognize. Renee, my lead analyst, confirmed the destination account was a temporary holding point. The money had been dispersed within minutes to multiple gambling sites. My stomach turned. He'd burned through it all before sunrise. I called Jordan Lee, my old college roommate, now with the FBI's cybercrime division. This is textbook cyber theft, she said. Are you sure you want to press charges? It's your brother, I said. He stole from my company, from 50 people who depend on me. By Christmas night, my team had compiled an airtight case. Logs, code analysis, witness statements, gambling site records, and that damning photo of Luca at my laptop. Next morning, I called a family meeting. Luca sauntered in, hungover and defiant. More accusations, he said. Evidence, I replied, opening my laptop to play the video my system had captured. Luca at 3:15 a.m. muttering to himself, finally taking what should have been mine from the start. Mom gasped. Dad's face drained of color. Luca went pale. It's fake, he said weakly. No, I said. Verified by my security team and independent experts. And the FBI. As if on cue, the doorbell rang. Dad opened it to find Jordan standing there with 2 agents and local police. "Luca Moretti," Jordan said. "You're under arrest for computer fraud, identity theft, and wire fraud." They cuffed him. He looked at me in disbelief. "You can't do this. We're family." I said nothing. The months that followed were a blur. Court hearings, recovery of some funds, and the shattering of whatever family harmony had remained. My parents drained their savings on his defense. Luca eventually took a plea deal. 4 years in federal prison with possible parole after 2, restitution payments, and mandatory gambling rehab. Ironically, the publicity led to more clients than ever. My new insider threat protocols became our flagship service. A year later, I visited Luca in prison. He looked healthier, more focused. He told me about the addiction program, the programming classes, his realization of how much potential he'd wasted. "I'll never fully earn back your trust," he said. "But I want to try." I didn't promise him forgiveness, but I didn't close the door either. The road ahead would be long, but I'd learned the hardest truth. Sometimes loving someone means holding them accountable, even if it breaks your heart.